Today I'd like to talk about meat eating and veganism. Now, veganism is a good concept. People are more than welcome to choose that lifestyle if they wish. It's not the lifestyle I've chosen. I don't eat a lot of meat, but I eat some meat. And I will counter argue the vegan argument, because the vegans, if you go to any online forum, will have this set of dogma that they read from, mostly just by copy and pasting information that other people have presented on the internet. There'll be sources and everything, and it'll be irrefutable, or should it seem. I definitely don't agree with the mass cruelty in animals that goes on. A lot of those animals feel pain, fear, and have a conscience. And there are definitely instances where they're mistreated, to say the least. But I believe it's an exaggeration that the vegans like to say that it's way outspread than it actually is. They like to refer to it as the second Holocaust. And I don't believe that's entirely true. I mean, there most certainly are plenty of examples of animals being mistreated, and inevitably they do get slaughtered for human consumption. I mean, you only have to go into any grocery store and you'll find meat everywhere. It is true there are a lot of commercials for the consumption of meat, from fast food to you name it. But I don't think that is much of a sense of propaganda as it used to be, because people aren't glued to their televisions like they are to the internet, at least not anymore. Now there's a free change of ideas and different ideologies and different beliefs. Now, one of the major arguments that vegans come up with is that meat's bad for you, that it causes cancer and a whole pile of other things, and it's filled with nitrites and God knows what else. But this is an exaggeration on the vegans' part, because they're assuming that everyone who eats meat eats nothing but hot dogs and processed meat, like pizza pops and salami and things like that. And that's not true. I, for one, do not eat much processed meat. It's the same as anything. I mean, vegetables, there's crummy vegetables out there too that don't do much for you. I won't say they're as bad for you as processed meat, but they definitely don't do much good for you. And one thing vegetarians or vegans really hate is when you criticize their irrefutable arguments. Like the dairy industry, for example. They like to say that cows are constantly made pregnant, milking cows, so that they can continue to produce milk, or they wouldn't be able to produce milk. Now, this may be true, but they say that the male calves are immediately slaughtered for veal. And I disagree with that, because you go to any grocery store, you go anywhere, to restaurants or whatever, and we don't actually eat that much veal. Not just in Canada, but in the States. I don't know about Mexico, but these places just don't eat a lot of veal. We don't eat that much of it. But they like to claim that every male calf gets slaughtered and gets turned into veal. Well, that's just not true. It's an exaggeration. They also like to claim that milk is no good for you. It causes osteoporosis and some other things, which may or may not be true. There has to be more scientific data on it. They also like to say that there's a large number of pus in it. I think it's something like 400,000 whatever the decimal is for it, which is acceptable in Canada. Now, I know for a fact that that's hardly any at all. Like, your milk is not going to have much pus in it. They like to exaggerate that because they like to gross people out. They want to gross you out of drinking milk and drinking soy milk, which, by the way, does not rehydrate you. Like, I swear, in the hot summer nights, I drink like 2 liters of that and I don't feel rehydrated at all. And it doesn't even taste that good. You try to put it in with cereal, some people say, oh, with cereal it tastes really good. Well, I don't agree with you. I don't have to agree with you. Nothing beats milk. Okay, some of the practices are a bit barbaric when it comes to the dairy industry, but it's a necessary evil, and I'll bring that point up again later on in this video. Yeah, another thing is they like to say that meat causes cancer and all that. Now, to be fair, it doesn't matter if you're a vegetarian, it doesn't matter if you're a meat eater, it doesn't matter what kind of animal you are, you're probably prone to getting cancer. Cancer is a very common disease. There are very few animals that don't get cancer, one of them being bison for whatever reason. Although they get a lot of other horrible things wrong with them, like parasites and other disgusting things, so it's not like they're in the clear. But for whatever reason they don't get cancer, but everything else does. It doesn't matter if you're on a strict vegetarian diet or a strict any diet, you can still get cancer. So that's an exaggerated fact that they like to bring up. There are some vegetarians who eat eggs and they call them vegans, which hardcore vegans don't like because they think it's supporting animal cruelty towards chickens who are kept in coops or tiny little cages to produce eggs. Now again, this is going back to the same presumption that everyone just eats the cheapest hot dogs whenever they can find, or they eat the cheapest eggs they can find. They don't eat free-ranged eggs. Oh, and they got an argument for that too. They like to say that, oh, well, day-old male chicks get ground up. But I've also heard that sometimes they put them in bags and suffocate them. What is it? Do they suffocate them, or do they put them in grinders to be grind alive? Which is it? Do they do different things in different countries, or what? And besides, what benefit is it to ground up a chicken at the day it's born, when in a month it can grow to a full size and produce way more meat than a day-old chick? Doesn't make any sense. It's all this perpetuated image and propaganda of demonizing the meat industry. Now, some of the bad things are true, and that's how the best propaganda works, is by sprinkling a bit of truth into it and then exaggerating everything else. That's how you get it so that people believe you. And they'll show you videos of animals being tortured and things like that, and being boiled alive or skinned alive or whatever, which are grotesque and barbaric, and I do not support that whatsoever. But the thing is, most of that happens in Asia. It doesn't happen here. I mean, a little bit in Norway, I think, with the seals, I think. But that's not us. That's not the Western Canada in the United States. What else? Oh, they like to go on about all veganism and everything it entails, which means no eating meat whatsoever, no eating eggs, no drinking milk. Those are pretty steep requirements, and they have no respect for meat eaters whatsoever. They all think we're all stupid, and some of us actually do have brains, and we still go, "Hey, man, that's not the way it is." I mean, I made the point of saying, you try living in northern Canada or Siberia during winter. You can have a cabin, you can have warm clothes, you can have a TV, and you can have a gun, but you don't get one morsel of food. Now, how long are you going to live without eating meat? I'll tell you one thing, you ain't going to live very long, because no food grows during those winter months, or it's so hard to find, it can't be found. And that's because if you don't hunt and you don't fish, you starve. It's as simple as that. And that's been the case for a lot of early man and even modern man. Part of our problems is that you just can't forage for enough vegetables and things like that to survive. So that brings me to another point where they're saying, oh, it's meat didn't help us evolve into the people we are today. In fact, it counteracted that because of some chemical bullshit, which I don't think is true. Because there were opportunities where there were no vegetables and nothing to harvest, but there was meat available, and we had to think of creative ways to get them, to capture our prey so that we could survive, which they haven't taken into consideration and don't want to take into consideration. Another thing is the fish industry. They like to describe all the things that are... I saw one thing where they said 35 reasons not to eat fish anymore. And most of them were because they were from Asian countries, like tilapia, the farm tuna that they can, shrimp, all that stuff. It all comes from Asia. That's their practices. It's not ours. So to rope us all into one category is absurd. And they like to say that everyone's to blame for shark fin soup. I have never had shark fin soup. I've never gone out of my way to eat shark fin soup. I never will go out of my way to eat shark fin soup. Besides, it's nothing but a bunch of cartilage anyway, but that's beside the point. I'm just not into that sort of thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like seafood, but that's not exactly the same thing. But they don't go out and bash Asian countries for that because they don't want to be seen as racist. They just want to rope everyone into the same category so that they can play all fronts and still be the vegetarian, be the self-righteousness and everything else that goes with it. And they don't understand that you can't grow food everywhere in North America. There are plenty of places where there's just not enough water, the seasons are never right, the soil quality is not as good or non-existent, and you just can't grow enough vegetables to feed people. Now the thing is, we do grow enough vegetables to feed North America, but there are various tanglements that disrupt that. But that's a first world privilege that we have, that we're able to grow enough food to sustain ourselves. And a lot of places in the world, they don't. They have to eat meat. If they don't eat meat, they're not going to survive. They really hate being proven wrong or having someone even contradict them. Even if it's just a flimsy argument that they bring up, they really hate it. They can't stand it. It's kind of funny when you think about it. And I also question their sanity, because at hand, most of them have video documentation of animal cruelty. No, I don't have that. I have no interest in having that. It's not something I do. But you go to any vegetarian or vegan Facebook forum or website, and they'll have it on hand of animals being skinned alive, or having their beaks cut off, or being thrown into grinders, or whatever. And I go, what kind of sick, twisted individual would have that? Even if they're just trying to prove a point, why would you have that on hand? Unless you have a screw loose in your head. Yeah, I don't know. Because I've seen pro-vegans who just show animal barbarity against animals, and they show it over and over again, and I go, maybe you're sick and twisted. Why would you keep showing this? What's your point? I think there's something wrong with you. Because what they do is they make a collage of all the worst things they can find, and they keep those things so that when anyone questions them, they go, look, they were cutting off beaks, which they're only trimming the tip of the beak so that they can't be pecked. The chicken farmers can't be pecked. That's the only reason they do it. And I don't actually think it actually particularly harms the animal. I could be wrong, but I don't think they have feeling in their beaks. And since they're not doing any hunting or whatever, then it's whatever, not that big a deal. I mean, they are going to get slaughtered anyway. Yeah. It's like the vegans have this book that's been written specifically for them so that they're able to counteract any argument against them, or most arguments against them. And if you think outside the box and you actually are able to come up with a comparable debate against them, they get really mad. In fact, even on websites where they say we're up for an open debate against meat eaters versus vegetarians, they still get mad. I go, well, why do you want to go to a debate club if all you want to do is get mad every time someone doesn't agree with you? I don't have to agree with you. I think there's nothing wrong with eating fish or bovine or chicken or turkey or pork to a lesser extent. I mean, pork is a dirty animal. That is true. But it tastes pretty good. It is kind of fatty. Especially bacon, which everyone really likes. I don't eat much pork. I eat a little bit. I'm not really hypersensitive to it. But another point that I wanted to bring up is that they don't understand that the meat industry makes too much money. It can't be allowed to fall, because it's part of our economy. It's a part of what makes the West great is our meat industry and how we're able to cultivate so many different food, be it from vegetables to the meat industry to everything. How we're able to produce as much as we can, and it's highly profitable. And to take that away would damage the economy, big time. And that's just the excuse that countries that don't like the West would relish in. They're looking for any opportunity to cause us grief and to dismantle our economy so that the whole country, all the countries in the West, just collapse. And it's a part of that pinch of evil that I was talking about before, that the necessity of evil in this world. So it is pretty miserable that animals have to die so that we get fed, but I see no reason why it should stop. It should be done a lot more humane. There shouldn't be acts of cruelty against them. And some would argue that killing them and eating them is cruelty, but it's not quite the same thing. It's not the same as slamming a baby pig against the ground and killing it right away. Which, by the way, is more humane than leaving it with its mother, because its mother would eat it. So that's another thing to consider, is pigs may be cute when they're little piglets, but when they grow up and become big pigs, they might chew your face off, and then they don't care if you're vegan or not. You can be a vegan or a meat eater, they'll still chew your face off. And when pigs fly, then I'll take them more seriously. But in the meantime, we are the top predator. We're higher up the food chain than they are. Anyway, yeah, I've kind of dribbled on for a while. I guess I'll make another video on veganism a little bit later. See how things go. Anyway, see ya.